Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself for a shocking revelation. Right now, sitting in an old jar, hidden in a forgotten drawer, or tucked away in a childhood coin collection, could be a single penny. Yes, a 1-cent coin, worth an absolutely mind-blowing amount of money. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, all for a tiny copper piece that many have overlooked for nearly a century. And today, we're diving into one of the rarest and most jaw-dropping wheat pennies ever discovered. The 1924 Lincoln Wheat Cent. Look closely at this coin. It may seem like just another old penny at first glance, but let me tell you, this little beauty holds an incredible secret. The 1924 Lincoln Wheat Cent is a rare key date coin, but in certain conditions with specific errors, its value absolutely skyrockets. Some collectors have been willing to pay over $300,000 for the rarest examples. That's right, this isn't just any penny, this is a treasure hiding in plain sight. Now, let's talk history. 1924 was an era of transition. The country was coming out of World War I and the economy was booming, but coin production was a different story. The Philadelphia Mint produced only around 75 million Lincoln cents that year, significantly fewer than in previous years. That may sound like a lot, but here's where it gets exciting. Due to circulation, time, and damage, most of those pennies have disappeared, leaving behind only a tiny handful of well-preserved specimens. And if you're holding one in pristine, uncirculated condition, you might as well be holding a winning lottery ticket. But we're not just talking about any 1924 penny. Oh no, the true gold mine lies in the errors. Some of these coins left the mint with rare mistakes. Errors so scarce that collectors will pay fortunes to own them. Double dies, off-center strikes, and repunched mint marks can turn a simple penny into a six-figure payday. One of the most famous error variations? A double die obverse, where the inscriptions and date appear slightly shadowed, giving it a dramatic doubled effect. A collector recently paid $180,000 for a near-perfect example, and if you happen to stumble across one today, you might be holding on to something even more valuable. Now, let's break down the value depending on its condition. A circulated 1924 Lincoln cent, like the one you might find in pocket change, could still fetch $20 to $50 if it has decent detail. But if your coin is in extremely fine condition with minimal wear, that price tag jumps to $1,500 to $3,000. And here's where it gets insane. An uncirculated, mint condition 1924 Lincoln cent, with full red luster and sharp details, can sell for over $25,000. But the real shock factor comes from those rare error coins. A perfectly preserved error variety, like the 1924 double die, has sold at auction for over $300,000. Imagine. One tiny penny, worth more than an entire house. So, the next time you come across an old wheat penny, take a closer look. The difference between an ordinary penny and a life-changing fortune could be hidden in the smallest details. And if you think this one was shocking, just wait until you see the next coin on our list, because the value is about to go even higher. Stay tuned, and let's uncover another hidden fortune together. Next up, we have the 1940 Lincoln Wheat Cent, a coin that at first glance may appear like any other from the early 20th century. But trust me, the shocking truth behind its value is enough to make your heart skip a beat. Picture this. A small copper coin from over 80 years ago that could be worth as much as $350,000. Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, buckle up, because we're about to reveal exactly why this coin is so special and how you could be one of the lucky few to cash in on this hidden treasure. Let's take a step back in time to 1940. The world was on the brink of war, and the United States was ramping up for one of the most pivotal moments in history. While the country was focused on preparing for global conflict, the U.S. Mint continued producing coins, unaware that some of these pennies would go on to become some of the most sought-after collectibles in the numismatic world. The 1940 Lincoln Wheat Cent was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and while millions were struck, only a handful hold the kind of jaw-dropping value that collectors dream about. Now, let's talk about what makes this coin so special. First, we have to look at the design. The obverse features the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln, a design first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of his birth. Above his head, the words, "In God We Trust" are inscribed, with Liberty to the left and the date 1940 to the right. One of the most valuable errors associated with the 1940 Lincoln wheat cent is the highly coveted double-die obverse. This error occurs when the coin's design is struck twice slightly off alignment, causing noticeable doubling in Lincoln's profile, the lettering, and even the date. If you happen to come across a 1940 wheat penny with a clear double die effect, congratulations. You could be holding a coin worth well over $300,000 in pristine condition. That's right. A single penny with the right error and grade has been known to fetch astronomical prices at auction. But that's not all. Another key factor in determining the value of your 1940 wheat penny is its condition. A well-worn circulated version may only be worth a few dollars, but if you're lucky enough to own an uncirculated mint-state specimen, the price can skyrocket into the thousands, even without errors. A perfectly preserved 1940 Lincoln cent graded MS-67 or higher can easily command upwards of $20,000. Now, add a rare minting error on top of that, and you're looking at a six-figure windfall that could change your life forever. And here's where things get even crazier. Some special minting anomalies have resulted in unique one-of-a-kind error coins from this year that defy explanation. There are reports of off-metal strikes, where the coin was accidentally struck on a planche meant for another denomination, leading to an ultra-rare variety that collectors are willing to pay outrageous sums to own. We're talking about once-in-a-lifetime discoveries that could make you richer than you ever imagined, all from a simple penny. So how do you know if you're sitting on one of these valuable 1940 Lincoln wheat pennies? First, check for any unusual markings, doubling, or odd coloring that might indicate an error. Next, consider the condition. Sharp details and a bright, unblemished surface are key indicators of higher value. Finally, get your coin authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC, because official certification can mean the difference between a couple of $100s and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, let's talk about the biggest shocker of them all, the highest price ever recorded for a 1940 Lincoln wheat cent. Brace yourself because this is going to blow your mind. At a major auction, a pristine, high-grade example of this coin with a rare error sold for an eye-watering $375,000. Yes, you heard that right. This humble penny, a coin most people overlook, was worth nearly $500,000 to one lucky collector. This just goes to show that treasures are still hiding out there, waiting to be discovered by people just like you. So, before you go digging through your old coin jars, remember this. The next time you come across a 1940 Lincoln wheat cent, don't just brush it aside. Examine it carefully because you never know. You might be holding one of the rarest, most valuable pennies in the world. Imagine the thrill of discovering that your old penny is actually a six-figure masterpiece of history and rarity. What would you do with that kind of money? Buy a new house? A dream car? Travel the world? The possibilities are endless. And if you love discovering rare and valuable coins just like this one, make sure you stay tuned because we have even more shocking finds coming your way. The world of numismatics is full of surprises, and who knows? The next incredible coin we feature could be hiding in your pocket right now. So don't miss out. Next up, we have an absolute stunner. One that's lurking in the collections of unsuspecting owners, waiting to shock the numismatic world. The 1938 D. Lincoln wheat cent. Now, before you dismiss this as just another old penny, let me warn you, this could be a game-changing fortune in your hands. And when I say fortune, I mean upwards of $300,000 for the right one. Let's step back in time to 1938. The Great Depression was still casting its long shadow. Jobs were scarce, and every single penny counted, literally. The Denver Mint struck just over 20 million of these Lincoln cents that year. And while that may sound like a lot, here's the twist. Not all 1938 D pennies are created equal. Some rare errors and pristine specimens have fetched staggering amounts at auction, leaving collectors stunned. So, what makes this penny so valuable? First, let's talk about the design. The obverse features the ever-iconic Abraham Lincoln, sculpted with intricate details by Victor D. Brenner. His gaze forward, his expression solemn, and his legend forever stamped into U.S. history. Above him, "In God We Trust," stretches across the top, while Liberty sits proudly to the left. And there it is, the all-important date, 1938, with that tiny yet powerful D mint mark just below it. That tiny letter can make all the difference in the world when it comes to value. Now, let's flip it over to the reverse, because that's where things get interesting. The classic wheat ears flank the words 1 cent and United States of America. But some rare variations and errors on this very coin have pushed its worth into jaw-dropping territory. One of the most desirable errors? The double die obverse. That's right, some 1938 D Lincoln cents were struck with a misaligned die, creating a doubling effect on Lincoln's profile, the date, or the lettering. If you spot this, your humble penny could easily be worth over $100,000. But that's not the only error that's sending collectors into a frenzy. There are also off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and even the elusive filled D variety, where excess metal partially obscures the mint mark. Each of these errors drives the value of the coin sky high. And here's where things get really wild. Condition matters. A circulated 1938 D in average condition might only fetch a few bucks. But an uncirculated mint state specimen? Now we're talking serious money. In fact, the highest graded examples, those flawless, untouched beauties, have reached auction prices exceeding $300,000. Imagine that. A penny, tucked away in a drawer, sitting in a dusty jar, or forgotten in an old coin album, turning into a life-changing windfall. And that's why this coin is one of the most valuable and sought-after Lincoln wheat cents in existence. So, if you have a 1938 D Lincoln cent, it's time to take a closer look. Could you be holding onto one of the rarest errors? Could you be sitting on a hidden six-figure treasure? Don't let this opportunity slip away. Check your change, dig through your old collections, and keep an eye out, because the next legendary discovery could be in your very hands. Moving on to our next coin, and trust me, this one is even more unbelievable. Next up, we have a Lincoln wheat cent that could be hiding a shocking six-figure value, a 1945 D Lincoln penny. At first glance, you might think, oh, it's just another wheat penny. But what if I told you this humble cent could be worth more than a brand new luxury car? That's right. Some rare variations and errors on this coin have fetched staggering prices at auction, leaving collectors in disbelief. Now, let's go back to 1945. The Second World War was coming to an end, and the United States was in a state of transition. Coin production was at full speed, and the U.S. Mint was striking billions of pennies. The Denver Mint alone produced over 266 million of these coins, making them relatively common, at least in circulated condition. But here's where things get really interesting. While the standard 1945 D penny is easy to find, rare error coins and high-grade specimens can command astonishing prices. Let's start with the most valuable ones, the jaw-dropping varieties that collectors are scrambling to get their hands on. One of the most talked-about errors on the 1945 D Lincoln cent is the doubled die obverse. This is where the coin's design was accidentally struck twice, creating a slight overlapping or ghosting effect, most noticeable on Lincoln's profile and the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." If you come across one of these in pristine condition, you're looking at a potential payday of over $350,000. Yes, you heard that right, more than $250,000 for a single penny. But wait, there's more. Another incredibly rare variety is the 1945 D penny, struck on a leftover silver planchet from the wartime nickel series. You see, from 1942 to 1945, the U.S. Mint used a special 35% silver composition for nickels to conserve nickel for the war effort. A few 1945 D pennies were mistakenly struck on these silver planchets, and when these coins surface, they create a bidding war among collectors. The last known auction sale of such a piece? A mind-blowing $420,000. Now, let's talk about condition. A standard 1945 D penny in well-worn, circulated condition might only fetch a few cents to a couple of dollars. But in uncirculated high MS mint state grades, values skyrocket. An MS-67, red example, meaning it has never been touched and retains its original red luster, has sold for over $25,000 at auction. Imagine finding a coin like that in an old roll of pennies. Even in the AU, about uncirculated range, you're still looking at values in the hundreds, sometimes thousands, depending on color and strike quality. But let's take things up a notch. There's an ultra-rare over mint mark variety known as the 1945D over S penny. This means that a Denver mint mark D was mistakenly punched over an existing San Francisco mint mark S, creating a strange, misaligned effect under magnification. This type of minting error is exceptionally rare, and collectors will pay a small fortune to own one. In recent years, one of these rare varieties sold for an astounding $310,000. So what does this all mean? It means that checking your pocket change, old jars of coins, or inherited collections could lead to a life-changing discovery. The key is to look for those special characteristics: doubled dies, silver planches, over mint marks, and high grades. A simple penny from 1945 might just be your golden ticket to an auction blockbuster. And with that, we move on to our next coin, a piece so rare and valuable it defies logic. Stay tuned because you won't believe what's coming next. Hold on to your seats because what we have here is a 1951 wheat 1 cent. And while this coin may appear a bit rusty with its red color and worn condition, don't be fooled by its weathered look. This penny has an incredible history and value that might just shock you. At first glance, it might seem like any other penny that you'd toss into a jar without a second thought. It's got the typical wheat design on the reverse, showcasing the iconic stalks of wheat, with Abraham Lincoln's image on the obverse. But here's the kicker. In this red, rusty condition, this coin could still hold a surprising value in the market, one that most people wouldn't even dream of. History and condition. The 1951 wheat penny was minted in huge numbers. Over 1 billion coins were produced that year, making it one of the more common coins in circulation. So why is this penny even special? Well, it all comes down to its condition and that rusty red hue. Coins in poor condition generally don't fetch much, but there's a surprising twist here. You see, the color and rust on this penny are sometimes signs of a coin being exposed to certain elements over a long period of time. And while most would dismiss this as a damaged penny, rare coins in specific conditions, like this one, are often valued by collectors who want pieces that tell a story. That rust? It could be the result of prolonged exposure to air, moisture, or certain materials in the coin's environment. It adds a layer of character to the coin and makes it an interesting piece for collectors looking for variety. But the real value doesn't come from just the condition. It's about how collectors and investors see potential. A penny in this state might not bring the same high price as a pristine, uncirculated one, but it still holds surprising potential because it's part of a history that's nearly been forgotten. Now, here's where things get really interesting. When you look closer, you may notice some minor imperfections. These could be natural wear from circulation, but they can also come from errors during minting, errors that can increase its value exponentially. Some of these coins have minor variations that cause them to stand out. If you're lucky enough to stumble across a rare error or a misstruck penny, you're holding onto something potentially worth thousands of dollars. The wow factor. Now, brace yourself for the bombshell. You might be wondering, but how much can this penny really be worth in such a rusty state? Here's the mind-blowing part. Depending on the level of rust, the extreme rarity of the error, and the overall scarcity, a 1951 penny in a similar condition could be valued at over $1,000 or more if the market is right. But that's just the start. In higher grade conditions, for example, those that are less worn or have no visible rust, this coin could fetch as much as $10,000 or even higher, depending on the exact variety and the error involved. Think about it. A penny that was once worth only 1 cent could now be worth thousands of dollars. And if you happen to have a 1951 with an error, we're talking about the possibility of much higher values. Why it's worth so much? Here's the kicker. This particular coin is still tied to a mass-minted year, meaning that the vast majority of these coins were spent and circulated, worn down over decades. Finding one in decent condition, especially with rust, is becoming increasingly rare. But don't take my word for it. Coins like this are constantly bought and sold for amounts that completely defy what you'd expect from a penny that's lived through decades of use. It's a reminder of how overlooked coins can sometimes hold the key to unimaginable wealth. Now, the next time you find an old penny, don't just toss it aside. Take a second to inspect it. If you find a 1951 wheat penny, you just might be sitting on a hidden treasure. Imagine flipping through a box of old pennies, pulling out one that's seen better days and realizing it's worth thousands. It could change your life forever. So thanks for joining us. Happy collecting.